Hello, welcome to LLG's Random But Real podcast, where you'll hear conversations about any and all things random with an entree, not a side dish, of mental health advocacy. I use my performance, communication, and literary art skills to bring awareness about mental health and other topics. Therefore, whether I'm singing, speaking, or writing, it is my desire that my words will be melodic, just like music to your ears. Welcome to LLG. That's me, Lisa L. Gilliam's Random But Real podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of LLG's Random But Real. And I am your host, Lisa Gilliam, also known as One Singing Lady. Now, of course, I tell you all we have this, or I titled it Random But Real because sometimes I just speak about random topics that kind of come to mind. I don't really plan the things out that we're going to talk about, even if we have guests. Whatever we say, and I don't usually edit. So it's random but real. And so this week, basically what came to mind was something that I love to talk about, or at one point enjoy doing so much. And so normally I give the spiel of why I started this and what I hope the podcast will be, but you can listen to the intro for all of that. And so I just kind of want to get into it. Today's topic's about basically bloops and blunders, things that I've experienced, maybe lies and mistakes within the music industry. And so although I am known as One Singing Lady now, I have been a manager, I've been an artist, I've done event planning, I've been a booking agent. So I've had both aspects of, I guess, the music behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. Those are the both I'm talking about when it comes to that. And I've had a lot of different things happen to me since I've been, quote unquote, in the industry. I started out in gospel, but when I was in high school, there were a couple of times, and also in college, and also shortly after, where I could have been signed, but I didn't want to be, quote unquote, a slave to the industry. I chose not to sign a deal. One, because I was a songwriter and I wanted to really kind of have my own take and be able to sing the songs I wanted to sing without anybody telling me that I had to or I couldn't do this. And then two, just because monetarily, honestly, I wasn't trying to give up my masters and things like that. And so everything that's out there is mine. If I co-wrote something with someone, I have the copyright along with them, if that's the case, or, if they were work for hire, then that, I did things by the book. I remember when I was telling my cousin when I was younger, who actually worked in the music industry for a bit, and he told me about Donald Passman's book. It's either called All I Want to Know About the Music or Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business. If you Google Donald Passman, you will probably find the book. And that's how I kind of started getting into booking and management. Well, no, that's not completely true. My brother was a really, really great ball player in high school and college. And so when it came time for combine and people trying to get him, they were trying to be his sports agent, he allowed me to be the person that they had to contact to, get with him. And this was all like legit times. A lot of stuff has changed with NFL and collegiate rules now, but back then you had to wait till a certain time before you could get an agent or whatever. And they would take us out, wine us, dine us to try to get, to my brother. And he valued mine as well as my mom. My dad was deceased at the time, our opinions. And so I learned a lot about booking then and management then and seeing how people kind of roll. Well, for me, it translated into what I ended up doing with so many artists or for so many artists, as a booking agent and a manager. I decided on this broadcast not to actually name names, but those people that I'm talking about in this bloopers and blunders and mistakes and lies know who I'm speaking about. This is not to talk about them per se, but just some of the experiences that I've had. So at one point I used to do a monthly event called Fourth Friday's Praise Festival. And my pastor at the time would partner basically with me. I did it at my church and then also at another church that's the pastor's no longer in the area. And every fourth Friday, primarily through the months of, I would say, March to October, because the DMV winters are no joke. And I had to cancel one time, and that meant that I had to cancel sometimes 8 to 10 artists. And it really was no other way to put them on another show, because at that time, giving all glory to God, we were booked well in advance, months in advance. Everybody wanted to be a part of Fourth Friday's Praise Festival. And I learned and met so many artists in the area. We would have vendors as well. We would have visual artists. We had rappers and dancers and singers and bands and you name it. And it started because of the midnight musicals that they used to have in DC. And I wanted to do something similar to that. So I'm grateful for that time. We did it for almost 10 years, I believe. I would have to go back and see. And then I started doing other events like the Music History Month event about hymns and spirituals, and then Celebrate Life, which dealt with suicide prevention. We also would have Past the Present Conference, and Past the Present is the name of my first CD. So at all these events, I would always have vocalists and dancers and speakers and poets and, artistic people that had artistic talents. And so I got to meet a lot of people during that time. And I also went through some experiences at that time. And that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. These people I may have spoke to about, some of them said they were going to contact me and they never did. And so I never really said anything to them. One of the things, as you know, this podcast is pre-recorded, and so when this airs, who knows, maybe they'll, we would have had a conversation by then, but maybe we won't. But I released my first CD in 2004, like I said, called Past the Present, and I'm grateful to the producer because he heard, actually another friend that I knew, a friend of a friend who became my friend, was just like, I know this blah blah blah. My producer was a guitarist. You can Google him to see who I'm speaking about. And he was also a vocalist. And we came up, we were going to do like an EP. And then he heard my poetry. He was like, this is really what's going to get it. It's my words. My mom always used to say, yes, you're a singer, but you're a writer who sings. So it's often been my words, my lyrics, the things that I've spoken that have moved people, more so than my singing. And although, now a lot of people they love my singing, some people don't really know me as the poet or the spoken word artist because I don't do that as much. And I think part of that is because, especially when my mom passed this year, October will be 7 years, I ended up having memory loss, memory retention, and processing issues. So the best way I can describe that is it's almost like when I was writing my book, 21 Days, I think I've mentioned that before with my co-author, it was almost like it was dyslexic phrases. So I would say things backwards. The way that I would process information has completely changed in my life. And that's as a result of the PTSD, which I'm still working through. But just giving you a little background. So, there are a lot of people that I had opportunity to meet and work with through, like I said, Fourth Friday's Praise Festival, and then also through doing the CD. And so my producer at the time was like, this is it. And so basically he came up with some music. It was work for hire, but came up with some music to put along with some of my spoken word pieces. And that's how Past the Present ended up being mostly spoken word and poetry with, I believe it's only like 5 songs on there, but it's deep. It's cathartic. So if you haven't purchased that, you can get them on all platforms, Apple, Amazon, I don't know, you name it, wherever you can buy CDs, or you can go to my website, www.lisalgilliam.com, and you can see the links or purchase the songs individually or as a CD there. And so came out with that CD. That was cool. But I didn't know a lot then. And I ended up getting the stickers placed on the CD, instead of getting them stamped, which is, a little bit more money, but that's what happened. And so I knew when I came out with the second CD, I didn't want the stickers. One, they also get stuck, when you're trying to play them, especially in cars. And, like you do better when you know better, right? You know better, you do better. So we'll come back to that. So my producer tells me when he was mixing the songs, because he also did some sound engineering, etc., and that there was one little part to a song that he didn't catch. And so I'm sharing this blooper or blunder live here. If you listen to the song Jesus Story, it sounds like it's like a little rap in one of the verses, and it's like he was wounded, and it's he was wounded, and so it looks like it almost fits. It almost doesn't sound like a blunder or a blip or a blooper, but that actually was not supposed to be there. And so at first I was like, because I didn't even catch it. And then when I heard what he was saying, I appreciated his honesty. But by the time that I found out, it had already gone to be mastered, and that was sent out to someone else, another company, before they printed the CDs. And so it was kind of too late unless I wanted to pull all of them. And if you've known me for any of my 50 years of life, you know that I have gone through various financial constraints. Honestly, I've struggled financially most of my life, not just adult life, and for different reasons, one or the other. And so although the song for you as a, or I should say for my musician friends, might not have sounded the best, for me, if I put my money into it, I didn't have money to pick and choose, like to do all the work, recording, mixing, mastering, getting, instrumentalists, hired all these people, and then I don't put it out. That was not going to happen. So if it's CD, if it was finished, a track was finished, it's going on some project, it's going out there because I don't have money to waste. So I say that for a reason too, but I'll kind of come back to that. So, I do this first CD. We come out, we have a release party for Fridays is going well. I would say minor success. Like I was always quote unquote gigging, or for my Christian folks ministry. I was singing everywhere. And because I was also managing or booking an artist, oftentimes I was asked to, when I would go to, be with them, and sometimes I did background vocals for them, I would also get an opportunity to sing my stuff too. So I got to meet so many people in the area because of that. And then I was giving them opportunity to do things too. I remember one person who's very well known, has national CDs now. He said, yep, I want to be on it, called me, said I want to be on it. And because he worked in the church, they had a consistent or annual retreat. And of course, that was his job. So he had to go because that was his job. The problem is he never called to say, hey, Lisa, I'm not going to be able to come because I have to work. The only reason I knew that he had the retreat is because I knew people who went to that church, which is a pretty large church in the area. The pretty large church, I'll say in Fort Washington in the area. So I said I was going to say exact names, but I'm not trying to hide it. And so this musician, this vocalist, actually sang there and never called to say, hey, I can't make it because I have to work. And that put, a bad taste in my mouth, because I feel regardless if you're well known, nationally known, just locally known, if you say you're going to do something, you should do it. If you can't do it, you should follow through. I don't like ghosting on any front. And so ironically, years later, we were both in a wedding together. Both of us were vocalists for this wedding. The husband had gotten this guy, and the wife or the bride had gotten me to sing. And so I don't care. I may not have the same platform that he does. I may not be nationally known, but people in Africa and other countries have purchased my CD and my music. So maybe I am internationally known. I don't know. You be the judge of that. However, my point is that God will open up doors for whoever, whenever, regardless of your platform. And I don't remember if I told them how I felt. And I actually purchased his music. I actually like the artist, but I did not like his actions. And so that was, I feel something that shouldn't have done. And I hope that some of y'all listening today don't do that now. Please, no matter how small or large a venue is, you never know who knows somebody else. So please just go ahead and just let them know if you got to cancel a performance. But That wasn't even on my list to talk about. That just kind of came through. So anyway, I go on. I did a single. I believe that was 2015. The producer was a former classmate of mine. And because God has blessed me in so many different areas where people have poured, like they have purchased my CD or CDs and or open up opportunities for me to sing, because sometimes at one point I wasn't working and all I would make was money from CDs or money from, singing engagements or speaking engagements or preaching engagements. And I say this separate because sometimes I am asked to come out and share my testimony. You can find out more about that in the book 21 Days. Or just, listening to the podcast, I kind of share a lot of the things that have happened in my life. But sometimes I was licensed ordained as a minister in 99 or evangelist. And I am, or was, I should say, asked to come and preach a lot more then. So that in a lot of times I would sing and preach. So that was my life, basically, almost, I would say at least 2-3 weekends out the month. Whether it was my home church or whether it was out, ministering other places, but it was also a source of income, not gonna lie. And so I did that a lot. And people would give of their time. And so I thought myself and this producer as friends were writing together. And then we were just going to take or split proceeds or whatever. Well, I found out I was wrong about that. And they may hear this. We have spoken, since then. I'm like, I don't have any money to give to this. And I consulted a lawyer. The lawyer told me not to sign the deal, even though the deal was basically, hey, if you don't sell, you don't have to pay me. But if you do, you have to pay this. Well, because I believe in helping small artists, like that's what I was basically at the time, I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars for a track. At that time, it wasn't that much. It was less than 1,000, less than 500, honestly, for a track in the studio. I wasn't even charging like more than 150, 200, which is similar, honestly, to what I would charge now just to go in and do one song, especially if it's like one or two, and that will per the time that I'm going into the studio. And so it was a misunderstanding. Honestly, I just want everybody, if you're going to do something with anybody, even a friend, make sure you have your contract straight before you start, not after you start, because it can cost a friendship. It can cost a lot more miscommunication. I know some people know that, but remember, like I said, although I learned a lot from the 2004 recording process, there are some things that I did not know, and I learned, as I went on. I did some other people's like background vocals for some people, some artists. I got to be in an independent film where I, performed, pretend that I was a person, pretend I was myself performing in a studio, one of my spoken word pieces. And so I learned a lot. Being in the industry showed me or gave me a lot of opportunities. But like I said, there were a lot of other things that happened too. And so I ended up releasing my last CD in 2019. And I remember it was basically almost 7 years that went by. It should have been out sooner. But like I said, finances. I remember one time I lost all of my masters, like they disappeared. So from that point on, I made sure that I had a backup to the backup. So the drive didn't work. I had to go back to the guy who was helping me to mix at the time, he was able to, because I didn't have Apple or Mac computer, and he was able to find the missing tracks or whatever and upload them again so I could store them. And then I started storing them on another flash drive and a disc because I didn't want to lose my masters again. Oh, forgot to say this. 2004, the producer, somehow the masters got either stolen or lost. And so all I had were the things that were sent to the studio to get burned. I didn't have the masters anymore. And so you just always want to make sure that you have your masters, make sure you have a backup to the backup, because it's computer, it's technology, things get lost and stolen. And I had an opportunity for this guy who was a DJ who I have some gospel go-go songs. I love go-go, being in the DMV. to record, and I couldn't give him the WAV file because I didn't have it anymore because the producer had it and that stuff was stolen. And so, or lost. I can't remember the whole story. That was a long time ago. And so I missed out on an opportunity where my music could have gone maybe to mainstream, which meant ministering to more people, which is all I really cared about. And it probably would have actually equated to some more money because this guy was pretty popular DJ, and I couldn't move forward with that. So that was kind of disheartening. Um, let's see. I remember in the 2019 CD before it came out, I wanted to do something that was going to help me celebrate my grandmother. My grandmother died 3 days before Christmas in 95, so December 22nd. And December 22nd was coming up. That's the date that I wanted to be my release date. And I remember even the graphic artist that I was getting to do the work, for whatever reason, they didn't meet the deadline. So I missed my December deadline. And I was so disheartened because the whole purpose of me putting it out on December 22nd was to honor my grandmother. I always try to do something to honor her. Did she love, enjoy to hear me sing, and to honor her in a way that brings me joy, and that could bring her joy too. And I missed the deadline. I was able to get it done by, the 30th or the 31st of the year. When it went out on different platforms, but I ended up having to do the graphic design myself. So that's why the easiest thing that I could do was point to the word depend, and, or create the word depend. And that's how the CD cover came about. I am not a graphic artist. So, if you wonder why it's not the greatest picture, that's why. But I was still proud of myself because I tried. I did something that I needed to do. I remember one time when I was doing a concert, I think it was the Past the Present concert, and I didn't have money to purchase tickets. And so I used those inks, those metallic inks on the back of a business card, and hand wrote the details for the ticket and sold the tickets that way. I will do whatever I need to do to get the job done. And for some people, they're just like, this is tacky, that's not business savvy, whatever. When you don't have money, you find ways to get things done. And so where it may look distasteful to somebody else, and I got laughed at by certain people, one of the persons is actually deceased now. And I'm still cool with her ex-husband. He's remarried, but I don't know if I ever told him about that. I'm actually cool with her cousins too, but yeah, just joking because they're like, what is this? But no one ever asked like why I did that. It's because I didn't have any money. Just being honest. Again, bloopers, blunders, mistakes, lies. So I created one. I went to one guy who was the musician or producer, and I was like, do you remember when you did X, Y, Z? Well, because it had been so long, he didn't have the track anymore. And then he was like, that wasn't a real track. That was a dummy track. Well, unbeknownst to me, like, how did I know that that was not the finished version? Because usually I'll give the song, I don't play, I pluck. I'll talk to about what the producer, blah, blah, they go through and they do their part. And then they'll give me, the song, and then I'll get it mixed elsewhere and mastered. CD Baby at the time, I said I wouldn't say names, but that's who I get my stuff distributed to. They had this program where you could mix your songs and master them that way. And that's what I ended up using, that program. But the mix that the musicians give me has to be on point enough so that it sounds sonically okay. And so that honestly was not the case for every track. But remember, my focus was not about quote unquote getting good music out there. It was really about making sure that I put my CD out to honor my grandmother. So that went on. And then one of the other things, so the dummy track, one of the people that's a producer, well known, even stellar, maybe even Grammy nominated, and they would always say like, you're kind of beyond your years, because a lot of the topics I talk about were taboo topics at the time. And I remember asking them to, if they would produce this song in particular. And the way that it was produced, I had a specific way that I wanted the background to go. I usually have a recording of everything and I give it to the producer or we work it out together. And so the way that it was done, I just wanted it to be, it was a little different. It wasn't the exact way that I wanted the background to sound, but I paid my money, whatever. I just went ahead and accepted it. It wasn't that bad. I was like, live, I can do whatever I want to do, even though this is this way. So when the CD finally came out, like I said, it was probably 7 years later. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, that the producer didn't like what they did on the project because they had their spouse call me and tell me that they wanted to redo the track. No charge to me, but just redo the track. Which, by the way, now it's been what? That was 2019. It's 24. Never happened. And I never had another conversation. But I did always wonder when I had that producer's number, like, why didn't they call me directly? Even if the spouse was a secretary to them or whatever, that person and I have spoken directly, about a lot of different topics over the years. So it didn't really make sense why you would have it unless you just, this is an assumption. I don't know for sure. Ashamed of what you did, just not like what they did, or the fact that they are really well known now and does so much more musically that little song that they did, 5-7 years prior wasn't just up to their current standards. But that to me just required a conversation that never happened, other than that they wanted to do it over. And so I remember another, somebody I regarded really highly, had a radio station or a radio show and was like, submit your tracks. I did it, and I guess it wasn't good enough for them, the tracks that we selected. And they were like, I'll talk to you about your tracks, but that never happened either. And another person at another event, you still singing, blah, blah, blah. I will tell you, I'm much better live than I am in studio, but it should be a balance. And that's fine if you don't like it or if it's not to your liking. But they never called back either. So you're asking me to submit something, but then you're not doing your part in responding to whatever it is that you said you're going to respond. And so I feel like that it's your choice, but don't ask me for something or say that you're going to talk to me about something and then you just leave me hanging. I would have appreciated them to actually have the conversation, be like, nope, this is not good enough for radio, or I'm looking for something different. I'm at a place, like I said in another podcast, 2024, I'm definitely not chasing anybody. I think I was like that in my mind last year too. So if you really want something, or if you really feel a certain way and we're close, we're friends, or we're even just acquaintances and cool in the industry, you should be able to have a conversation with me about whatever it is. I'm not going to break because of it. One of the guys, a background singer, and that it was in some of the songs, pulled out because they didn't feel like it represented them well. And that is absolutely their prerogative. I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have, because they told me, but when you don't say anything and you feel a certain way about something, then that's where I have, a problem. One other thing that happened is the person that was actually making the CDs. I had a gig that was coming up, and I needed them by a certain time, and it was going to be like probably, I don't know, it was going to be more than what my budget was at the time to get the CDs. And then it wasn't a guarantee that I would get them back because I was waiting for something else to happen before I could actually send out the final project. And this guy that I met at a former church was just like, who dealt with sound and things like that, was like, okay, I can do it. I said, I don't want the sticker. Remember, I told you I didn't want the CD sticker anymore. I wanted it to actually be stamped on there. I was like, you have the capability to do that. We did the contract. We did, the payment arrangements. We did what we need to do. And I paid like I was supposed to on time, and get to the day before, because they weren't done when I asked. So I had to go meet him in the city at a gig that he had so I could get my CDs. I work probably 40 minutes away from that location, and it was rush hour traffic on a Friday, and the show was Saturday. So it was better for me to just get it on Friday. And I get the CDs, and he tells me, first of all, I didn't get 8 of them done. And so I didn't have, 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done. And so I didn't have 8 of them done 8 CDs with any cover. And I'm like, okay, well, 8. I saw him pretty much every Sunday at church. So I figured, I would see him. I can get those 8. I might not sell this amount anyway. It was either 50 or 100. It really was just enough for that gig. And when I open them, when I get home, they're all stamped. They are not, I'm sorry, they're all stickers. They're not stamped on the actual CD. I was so upset. I called him. He didn't answer. Called again. It took a while to finally get through. And I was just like, what happened? I told you this is what I wanted. This is what you said, even in our contract. But when you're a small fish in a big pond, like I didn't have the money, honestly, to sue him, although I had the paperwork that said X, Y, and Z. And so at that time, that's before I actually had, believe it or not, I'll tell you, I use Legal Shield. They have an entertainment section. I didn't have that at the time. Cause I could have gone ahead and probably, went through suing and won, because that's not what we agreed upon. Then the person basically ghosted, didn't say anything else to me. I guess when I told them how I felt and, that they were wrong in their actions and their dealings, they felt it didn't matter and didn't say anything. And so I was more hurt because that was somebody I consider a quote unquote brother in Christ from church who said one thing, agreed to one thing and did another thing. And then thankfully I had another friend who at least got the stickers for me. He was like, I know a graphic artist, and he got the stickers for me done. The ones that this person did, sometimes my name was cut off. Like the G might be missing from Gilliam or the M might be missing. It was not done correctly. But again, I told y'all, when I put money into something, even if it's not right, I can't afford to take the loss. Or at least that's where I was. And so I would have to apologize for it being or looking the way that it was looking. And the sad part is the person my friend gave me, even though I didn't want stickers, those look better than the ones that they did or that this person did. So although the songs still sell from the CD, the single, and this last CD, still today on the music platforms, digital music platforms, it's definitely been an experience. And one of the things that I learned through the process is, though, especially that song where the spouse called me, and that was one of a friend of mine. She made sure she texted me or emailed me and was like, this is my favorite song. So just because it does not delight the masses or doesn't necessarily delight those people who actually can hear music and really understand it. I mean, like musicians, vocalists, that doesn't mean it's not going to minister to somebody. Do I agree that you should put your best foot forward and you should put out perfection? Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. But I also understood my personal situation. And so I think that instead of people assuming that it's done for a certain reason or that I don't know what I'm talking about or what I'm doing, just ask me, because I will tell you the truth. As you can see, I went through a lot of different things as an artist, as an agent, as a manager, a lot of disappointments, I call pimps in the pulpit, because plenty of people have asked me to sing at their events and stuff. But when I do something or I ask them to even just purchase one song, which was like $1 at the time, I think it might be $1.10 on depending on which CD, they wouldn't even do that. But they'll ask me to sing at their, the funeral or a nonprofit event or, just a regular church service, but then don't want me to even sell CDs. One time, one pastor, because of the whole scripture misinterpreted about Jesus being upset when he went in, he's like, you've made this a den of thieves. They had me sell on the city streets of Baltimore, all these CDs with all this cash out. It wasn't necessarily the greatest neighborhood. Shouldn't have been outside selling any CDs, but because of that scripture being misinterpreted, did not allow me to sell the CDs in the church. But they were like, you could sell them. And that day I got a lot of sales. So, it just, I've had so many different situations happen over the years. My heart, although I sing a lot now, I haven't really done a lot of stuff. I had to sing in a funeral yesterday. I was asked to sing in a second one. It just happened to be the same time. Singing at funerals is a lot harder for me now than it used to be. I used to enjoy ministering to people and hopefully being a catalyst of them coming to Christ. But now, as I get older, so many people are dying. It just hurts. I don't love it as much, but I pull myself through, and I will do it if that's something, God leads me to do. But I also enjoy, as I mentioned, karaoke. It's a way to sing. I sometimes sing gospel, sometimes I'm singing secular, just to get out my aggressions, because singing does make me feel better. But my heart now, my passion is really speaking and sharing my testimony. But this is a part of the process. This is a part of the testimony. And I just felt like hearing some of the bloopers, the blunders, the lies and mistakes that have happened in the music industry over these years, or why I don't sing as much publicly. I feel like as I continue to heal, as things continue to get better in my own personal life, I will probably, if God allows, me to sing more. It definitely is ministry, but like I said, it's also extra income. I honestly get paid more to sing one song than I do working the whole day at my regular, 9 to 5. But that's not my focus. It has been ministry. I'm thankful to God for ability to sing and minister to people who are brokenhearted, who need encouragement. So whether it's on a platform for me, whether it's through a podcast or a show, or even karaoke, a church service, I will continue to, pray that my words will be melodic, like music to your ears. I hope that learning some of the things about, what's happened to me and music over the years was helpful for you. I hope that if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I don't mind sharing what I've learned so that other people don't have to make the same mistakes that I've made. And if y'all did know the names of some of these people, you might be surprised, but you might not. You might have had the same experiences. But to those of you who are able to determine or find out who I am speaking about, and you want to still have a conversation with me, I'm around. You know how to reach me. But yeah, Lisa Gilliam's not chasing anybody in 2024. And I don't think that y'all should chase anybody either. If you really want to have a conversation, or you really want to resolve things, then, I don't have any bitterness towards any of them. I just have lessons learned. So it is what it is. All right. That has been this edition of LLG's Random But Real. Lisa One Singing Lady out. Have a great day, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's podcast, LLG's Random But Real. I appreciate your support and your time. Until next time, please make sure you visit my website, www.lisalgilliam.com, so you can find out more information about where this podcast is streamed, about my book, about the CDs, and spoken word. Again, I appreciate your support, and I look forward to hearing from you and you all listening to the next episode. Have a wonderful day.